a multi-billion-dollar military machine equipped with the most advanced technology on Earth, was systematically dismantled by an opponent that refused to occupy a single fixed point on a map. This was not a series of chaotic, desperate skirmishes. It was a cold, highly calculated intellectual science that turned absolute material weakness into an insurmountable strategic advantage. For decades, foreign commanders dismissed these fighters as simple, disorganized insurgents, completely failing to realize they were walking into a three-dimensional trap designed to rewrite the global rules of war. How did a nation of farmers, devastated by colonial exploitation and catastrophic famine, manage to defeat two global empires back-to-back? The answer lies far beyond the Hollywood cliches of solitary snipers and hidden pits. It resides in a masterclass of strategic asymmetry that military academies around the world still study today. To understand this, we must look past the superficial imagery of the conflict and examine the profound intellectual framework that guided the Vietnamese resistance. During the mid-20th century, the United States and its allies deployed an unprecedented array of technological marvels to the jungles of Southeast Asia. They unleashed B-52 bombers capable of carpet bombing entire mountain ranges, sprayed millions of gallons of chemical defoliants to strip away the jungle canopy, and deployed highly advanced electronic sensors along supply routes to detect the slightest human movement. On paper, the disparity in power was so vast that conventional military logic dictated a swift, decisive victory for the superpower. Yet year after year, the conventional forces found themselves fighting a ghost. The enemy seemed to materialize out of the earth, strike with devastating precision, and vanish back into the landscape before artillery or air support could be brought to bear. This was because the Vietnamese commanders did not view war as a mere clash of physical forces or a mathematical equation of attrition. Instead, they understood that military power is ultimately a social and political phenomenon. By mobilizing the entire population and transforming every aspect of daily life into an instrument of resistance, they created a form of total war that neutralized the technological superiority of their adversaries. This was not just a struggle for territory. It was a battle of endurance, willpower, and organizational genius that ultimately forced the world's most powerful military to withdraw. For the average soldier on the ground, the experience was psychological torture. They marched through dense, humid jungles, constantly on edge, knowing that any step could trigger a concealed booby trap or initiate a devastating ambush from an unseen enemy. The frustration of the high command was equally acute. They held the cities, the major roads, and the skies, yet they could not control the countryside or secure the loyalty of the population. This disconnect between physical control and political legitimacy was the fatal flaw in the conventional strategy, and it was systematically exploited by a resistance movement that had spent centuries refining the art of survival against overwhelming odds. To understand how this system became a global model, we must first recognize that it was not invented overnight in the 1950s. Vietnam's geography, bordered by a massive northern empire and defined by dense jungles, rugged mountains, and sprawling river deltas, forced its people to master the art of asymmetrical survival over 2 millennia. For centuries, the Vietnamese people faced repeated invasions from powerful Chinese dynasties, each possessing vastly superior numbers and resources. To survive, Vietnamese leaders had to develop a unique military philosophy that rejected conventional, head-on confrontations in favor of prolonged, exhausting campaigns of attrition. As early as the 13th century, during the Mongol invasions, the legendary general Tran Hung Dao wrote in his essential military handbook, the Binh Tu Yu Luoc, about the necessity of avoiding the enemy's strength and striking their weakness. When the seemingly invincible Mongol horde swept into Vietnam, Tran Hung Dao did not attempt to defend the capital city of Thang Long. Instead, he ordered the city evacuated, leaving the invaders with no food, no shelter, and no targets to strike. He then withdrew his forces into the dense forests and swamps, launching relentless night raids and cutting off the Mongol supply lines. By the time the invaders were exhausted, diseased, and starving, Tran Hung Dao launched a massive counteroffensive, crushing the Mongol forces on the Bac Dang River. This historical legacy of scorched-earth tactics, strategic retreats, and constant harassment became the foundation of Vietnamese military thought. Fast forward to the mid-20th century, when Vietnam faced the return of French colonial forces after World War II. General Vo Nguyen Giap and Ho Chi Minh realized they could not fight a conventional war against a modern European army equipped with tanks, aircraft, and heavy artillery. They needed a doctrine that integrated ancient survival strategies with modern organizational theory. This synthesis became known as Phu Ye Chien Tran Hung Dao, or the theory of people's war. The core philosophy was simple yet profound. When a small nation faces a giant, the entire population must become the army, and the entire country must become the battlefield. This was not merely about military operations. It was an all-encompassing struggle that merged political organization, cultural identity, and armed resistance into a single, unbreakable force. By framing the conflict as a struggle for national survival, they managed to mobilize millions of ordinary citizens, transforming every village into a fortress and every citizen into a combatant. This total mobilization meant that the distinction between combatant and non-combatant became blurred in the eyes of the enemy, creating a profound moral and strategic dilemma for the occupying forces. The French, and later the Americans, found themselves fighting not just an army, but an entire society that was organized, disciplined, and utterly committed to a single goal: national independence. The genius of the Vietnamese model lay in its meticulous organization, which Western observers often misunderstood. Foreign analysts made the mistake of viewing all guerrilla fighters as a uniform mass of irregulars, but in reality, the resistance was structured into three highly distinct, mutually supporting tiers. This three-tiered system allowed the revolutionary forces to maintain a constant presence throughout the country, project power at every level, and seamlessly transition between guerrilla warfare and conventional operations. The first tier was the Dan Quan Tuve, or the local self-defense militia. These were villagers who farmed by day and operated as saboteurs, intelligence gatherers, and trap setters by night. They knew every inch of their local terrain, every stream, and every villager. Because they lived among the population, they provided an invaluable intelligence network, reporting on enemy movements, identifying collaborators, and guiding regular forces through difficult terrain. They also constructed the thousands of simple, low-tech booby traps that inflicted heavy casualties and immense psychological damage on enemy patrols. The second tier was the Bộ Đội Địa Phương, or regional forces. Operating in company or battalion-sized units, these disciplined fighters moved within specific districts or provinces. They were better armed and trained than the local militia, and their primary mission was to launch rapid ambushes, intercept enemy supply lines, and protect the local political infrastructure. They acted as a bridge between the local militia and the regular army, coordinating operations and ensuring that the enemy could never find a safe haven, even in areas they believed they had cleared. The third and final tier was the Bộ Đội Chủ lực, the regular main force army. These were highly trained, mobile divisions capable of conventional, large-scale operations when the strategic moment was right. Unlike the local and regional forces, the main force divisions were kept hidden in remote sanctuaries, often across the border in Laos or Cambodia, or deep within the mountainous jungles of Vietnam. They were equipped with heavier weaponry, including artillery and anti-aircraft guns, and were deployed only when the enemy was vulnerable or when a major strategic blow was required. This three-tiered structure created an inescapable web. If a conventional force entered a village, they triggered the local militia. If they pursued the militia, they fell into an ambush laid by regional forces. If they concentrated their forces to hunt the regional units, they exposed their rear bases to devastating strikes by the main force regular divisions. This constant shifting pressure wore down the enemy's morale and fractured their command structure, forcing them to disperse their superior firepower across thousands of isolated outposts. rendering their technological advantages useless. By forcing the enemy to defend everything, the Vietnamese ensured they could defend nothing effectively. This organizational masterpiece transformed the entire country into a giant, slow-motion trap that gradually drained the resources and the will of the world's most powerful nations. While Western military doctrine emphasized technological superiority, rapid mobility via helicopters, and massive firepower, the Vietnamese strategy systematically neutralized these advantages by taking the battlefield underground and into the deep canopy. The physical and logistical execution of this strategy represents one of the most extraordinary chapters in military history, demonstrating how human organization and sheer determination can overcome the most advanced technological obstacles. The tunnel networks of Cu Chi, stretching over 250 kilometers near Saigon, were not just hiding places, they were fully functional underground cities. Dug into the hard, clay-like soil of southern Vietnam, these tunnels were engineered with multiple levels to withstand heavy bombardment, gas attacks, and flooding. They contained command posts, hospitals where complex surgeries were performed by flashlight, kitchens equipped with Hong Cam stoves that dispersed smoke close to the ground to avoid detection, weapon factories, and sleeping quarters. The tunnels were designed with narrow, winding passages and hidden trap doors, allowing the defenders to move invisibly beneath the feet of the enemy, launch sudden attacks, and vanish into the earth. Millions of dollars of high-tech detection equipment, chemical sniffer dogs, and specialized tunnel rat units were deployed to neutralize this underground network. But the sheer scale and complexity of the tunnels rendered these efforts largely ineffective. Simultaneously, the Truong Son strategic supply route, known globally as the Ho Chi Minh Trail, became the logistical miracle of the war. This was not a single road, but a vast, shifting network of jungle paths, mountain passes, and river crossings that stretched from North Vietnam, through the rugged mountains of Laos and Cambodia, and into the heart of South Vietnam. Despite being targeted by more explosives than fell on Europe during the entirety of World War II, this logistical lifeline never stopped operating. When U.S. bombers destroyed a section of the trail, thousands of youth volunteers, local villagers, and specialized engineering units repaired it within hours. Supplies were moved not by heavy trucks that could be easily spotted from the air, but by modified Peugeot bicycles, reinforced with wood and metal, to carry up to 300 kilograms of cargo, pushed by hand over hundreds of miles of rugged terrain. This was an industrial-scale logistical system powered entirely by human muscle, local ingenuity, and sheer determination, proving that human organization could outlast and outmaneuver the most advanced technological interdiction program in human history. The trail was also protected by a sophisticated air defense network and a system of camouflaged rest stations, hospitals, and storage depots hidden beneath the double canopy jungle. The ability of the Vietnamese to maintain this flow of supplies and personnel in the face of constant, devastating aerial bombardment remains one of the most remarkable achievements of modern warfare, illustrating the limits of air power against a highly organized and motivated population. The decisive victory of these tactics did not just change the fate of Vietnam, it shook the foundations of global geopolitics and forced a complete re-evaluation of modern military theory. The French defeat at Dien Bien Phu in 1954 was a watershed moment in world history. For the first time, a disciplined, indigenous peasant army, utilizing a combination of guerrilla tactics and concentrated conventional artillery, had surrounded and defeated a major Western colonial power in a set-piece battle. This victory sent shockwaves through the colonial empires of Europe and demonstrated to oppressed nations worldwide that national liberation was possible through organized armed resistance. From that moment on, the Vietnamese model of revolutionary warfare became a textbook, studied by liberation movements across the globe. In Algeria, the National Liberation Front closely analyzed General Giap's strategies to wage their own successful war of independence against France, adapting the concepts of population mobilization and asymmetrical warfare to the mountains and cities of North Africa. In Latin America, revolutionary theorists translated Vietnamese military manuals, seeking to replicate their tight integration of political and military struggle. The lessons of Vietnam were studied in the jungles of Africa, the mountains of South America, and the streets of the Middle East, transforming the nature of global conflict during the Cold War era. Even the United States military, after decades of focusing on conventional large-scale warfare, was forced to undergo a painful intellectual revolution. The hard-learned lessons of the Vietnam War led to the creation of entirely new doctrines of counterinsurgency. Decades later, during the conflicts in Iraq and Afghanistan, the U.S. military drafted Field Manual 3-24 under the direction of General David Petraeus. This manual heavily analyzed the organizational strengths, political mobilization techniques, and strategic patience of the Vietnamese National Liberation Front. The very tactics developed in the jungles of Indochina became the baseline against which all modern counterinsurgency and asymmetrical warfare doctrines are measured. Today, military academies from West Point to Sandhurst study the campaigns of Vo Nguyen Giap, not to replicate them, but to understand how to counter an opponent that utilizes the power of a fully mobilized population. This global legacy demonstrates that the Vietnamese strategy was not a localized fluke, but a highly sophisticated, universally applicable model of warfare that permanently altered the balance of power between conventional militaries and irregular forces. It proved that in the modern era, political will and social organization are ultimately more decisive than technological superiority. What the world got wrong about Vietnamese guerrilla warfare was its true nature. For decades, popular media and Western analysis simplified the Vietnamese resistance into a romanticized or demonized myth of the peasant in black pajamas, who succeeded merely through fanatical bravery and jungle stealth. This simplistic view misses the profound intellectual and scientific nature of their strategy. The Vietnamese did not win because they were invisible. They won because they treated warfare as an integrated social science. Their doctrine of Dao Tran, or struggle, was divided into two equal parts: Dao Tran Vu Trang, which was armed struggle, and Dao Tran Chin Tri, which was political struggle. The political struggle was just as structured and disciplined as the military one. It involved systematic propaganda, civilian mobilization, diplomatic campaigns, and the deliberate erosion of the enemy's political will at home and abroad. The Vietnamese leadership understood that a conventional military, bound by democratic public opinion and economic constraints, could not sustain a prolonged, indefinite war of attrition. By stretching the conflict over decades, the Vietnamese strategists transformed time into their ultimate weapon. They knew that every year the war dragged on, the political cost for the occupying power would rise, eventually reaching a point where victory was no longer worth the price. This integration of political and military action allowed the Vietnamese to turn their military defeats into political victories. For example, the Tet Offensive of 1968 was a military setback for the revolutionary forces on the ground, but it was a decisive political victory. It shattered the illusion of progress that the U.S. government had presented to the public, fueled the anti-war movement, and ultimately forced a dramatic shift in U.S. policy. The lesson they left for history is that military victory is not determined by who has the most advanced technology or the largest budget, but by who can most effectively align their military actions with a clear, unyielding political objective that commands the active support of the population. Without this deep alignment, even the most powerful military machine will eventually exhaust itself against a population that refuses to submit. This is the true essence of the Vietnamese model. It was a holistic approach to conflict that recognized that the ultimate battlefield is not the physical terrain, but the minds and hearts of the people, both in the conflict zone and in the capitals of the opposing powers. It is a lesson that modern strategists continue to grapple with, as conventional forces repeatedly struggle to achieve political objectives through purely military means. As we look at modern conflicts around the globe today, from Eastern Europe to the Middle East, the principles of asymmetrical warfare, first perfected in the jungles of Vietnam, continue to play out in real time. The shift from massive, centralized armies to highly agile, decentralized networks remains the defining characteristic of 21st century security. Today, non-state actors and smaller nations utilize cheap drones, cyber warfare, and decentralized communication networks to disrupt and neutralize the advantages of far larger, technologically superior adversaries, echoing the very strategies developed by Vietnamese commanders decades ago. The legacy of the Vietnamese model reminds us that the fundamental nature of conflict remains unchanged. It is a test of human organization, willpower, and political clarity. While the tools of war have evolved from bamboo traps and modified bicycles to drones and algorithms, the core challenge of aligning military action with a clear, popular political objective remains the ultimate key to victory. How do you think modern technology, like drones and digital communication, has changed the classic rules of guerrilla warfare that we discussed today? Has it made asymmetrical resistance easier? Or has it given modern states new tools of surveillance and control that make the Vietnamese model harder to replicate? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We love reading your insights and engaging in these deep historical discussions. If you found this deep dive into the strategic mind of history fascinating, please hit the like button, share this video with a fellow history enthusiast, and subscribe to our channel for more deep, analytical stories from Vietnam's rich past. Your support is incredibly important to us. It helps us keep bringing these incredible historical narratives to light and ensures we can continue to produce high-quality, deeply researched content. By subscribing and sharing, you help us build a global community of people who appreciate the depth, complexity, and enduring relevance of Vietnamese history. We want to thank our community of viewers who continue to support this channel. Every comment, share, and subscription helps us dive deeper into the archives, consult with leading historians, and bring you these highly detailed, objective accounts of the events that shaped our modern world. If there is a specific period of Vietnamese history, or a particular military campaign you would like us to cover in a future video, please leave a suggestion in the comments section. We read every single one of them. Until next time, stay curious, keep questioning, and thank you for being part of this journey into the past.